Working on a Jeep Wrangler, folks. Not sure what year we'll look when we set it down. The guy was DIYing, did his brakes, seen that his axle seals were leaking, and some of the parking brake shoes had fallen apart because the vacuum plates rotted out and the pins pulled through. A little more of a job than he wanted to do, so he hired us to do the axle seals and then the new parking brake assembly. So let's get after it. Get his caliper peeled off here. I didn't bring a screwdriver over. We'll see if we can't just peel that loose. No, I guess we can just stick it over here on the axle. Looks like 18. Get the bracket peeled off here. Guess he just did the brakes, so. Whoa! Oh, man down. Well, that was easy. There's no parking brake shoes in it, so yeah, it looks like everything came apart inside the drum here at some point and was really grinding it up. So maybe he must have tore it back apart and took all the junk out of it. Maybe that's what he told me. Not real sure. Oh, the clip's already pushed back on this one. I'm just going to unplug the speed sensor here while we're right here. He asked me to put new speed sensors in it also, so I have those. Alright, so we'll just leave that unplugged. And then, get out the old Panther P, get a little spritz on these nuts. We'll do both sides. There and there. Bust out your classic 18mm again. And start getting these cracked loose. And you gotta give these things a handy all the way to the end. They're a lock nut and they come off pretty hard. And they're so tight to the axle you can't get a dang ratchet wrench on them. So I'm just gonna take and spin these off. This one's not spinning off, the whole stud's turning. So that's not good. Same thing with that one, jeez. What are the odds of that? You gotta be kidding me. This one's spinning the whole stud too. What the frig, man? And then somebody has changed this one so it's no longer an 18mm. Okay, so somebody's been here meddling in things they ought not be meddling in. Let me just get the torch. No, we can't do that. We can't torch the head off those because we need to save those. Frig! So like I say, the problem is all of these studs right here, this stud's turning, they're all turning. And they're part of this bearing retainer, so this is something that we need to save. So yeah. Let's clean this up a little bit. We'll put a little booger of weld on each one, and then we'll take and back the nuts off. Somebody's obviously been here, like I say, because that nut's a different size. So I'm not really sure what happened here. But let's get a little wire brush. We can get in here. We'll clean this up. We'll get a little tack of weld on each one, and then we'll start taking it apart. All right, time to break out the brake clean. That should be good enough to get a little weld on there. We'll blow it all out. And before you go all chemist on me, it's non-chlorinated. We are going to use the welder. And it's going to create some UV light, but rest assured we're not going to create any phosgene gas, so we should be okay. It's nice and dry. See if this works now. Might have to check the Chrysler, see if we get a new bearing plate for it. Alright, yeah, that's holding it. Once we get the axle out and out of the way, we can clean it up so we can actually put a better tackle weld on it. It's pretty rusty and greasy and crap, but we just need something just enough to hold these studs still while we turn out the nuts here on the back side. So I'm going to finish taking these off and then we'll knock the axle out of it and see what we've got to play with here. I'll see if by some slim chance Chrysler has one of these. I doubt they do, but if they do, we might just get a new one. So, well, things just got sucky. So a couple of the welds didn't hold. They're not tacked on real good, so I had to double tap them. This one back here, this is that nut that somebody's already changed. It's a different size. I've pushed on it for all I've got, which ain't much, but it won't come loose. So I don't know if they've just, cross-threaded it on there or what, but I broke the weld again, so I re-welded it, but this time I'm gonna heat the nut. See if we can't get it to crack loose, figure out what happened. So I'll just give her some heat here. See if we can't get her to bust loose. Minor fire. There we go. I was really hoping it wasn't cross-threaded because I cannot get this bearing plate for a few days. Well, about 4 days to be exact, so. Alright. Must have just been rusted in place because, like I said, I broke the weld trying to get it loose and it was super tight. I'm going to slowly work it off here. I'll probably get a different wrench. If you're thinking about using a ratchet wrench and you've heated up the bolt, that's the only thing I find that will almost instantly break a ratchet wrench is heat. They don't like heat. At least the ratcheting mechanism doesn't. Probably to be more specific, I think the little spring in there doesn't. Because anytime I've used a ratchet wrench on a nut that I've heated, the wrench always breaks. Okay, she's starting to get snug again. I'm going to heat it one more time. Should be a Britney Spears song. Heat me, baby, one more time. Oh, it looks lovely. Oh, I know you. Come on, dude. Frick. Okay, that's pretty loose. I should have done about a half an hour ago. Let's get the stupid cable out of my way. So I'm going to grab a hold of cable.
Well, somebody didn't have any, but no broken, right?
No, I'm all set, Kyle.
Okay.
get that cable out of our way. And now we can go all the way. Oh, it would help if I could feel my fingers. Okay. Now we should be good. We've got all those nuts off, cables off, speed sensor's disconnected. Let's knock this axle out of here. We'll stick the old slide hammer on here. Sometimes you can just tap them out, but I find that the bearing gets stuck. Have a little rust in the end of the axle. And the bearing has a tendency to get stuck. But usually you don't have to whack on them too hard. Yeah, close enough. Who didn't have the bucket ready? This guy didn't. So now we've got a bit of a mess. Take this thing out of our way. Get the axle out. Oh, probably should find a bucket. Get yourself a bucket. Knock this bearing race out while we're right here. If you can, without a puller. They usually pop out relatively easy. Sometimes there's a little rust ridge out here that becomes a bit of a pain. In and out of the bucket. Classic move. The cap here will just stick there for just a moment. We've still got to get this backing plate off here. We're going to rattle it with the air hammer. Just going to stick that there to keep some junk from going in the axle tube if we can. Oh, man down. Now don't go chucking this in the trash. You're going to need the screw out of the speed sensor. If you can get it. Reuse your speed sensor if you are. These speed sensors are relatively inexpensive. The one on the other side was sheared clean off. This one is still usable. And free tip for you. You're going to sit here, you're going to grab this sucker by the back, and you're going to wiggle until it just snaps off. I've learned on these Chryslers. I forgot this is the real tip right here. When this thing's still up in the car, hit that sucker real fast with a hammer, and it will come loose every single time. And then you can just tap it through. I learned that one day in a fit of rage because I was upset that I didn't buy speed sensors when I was doing one of these. Now this style here usually does come loose because it's the 4 ribber. They don't have a lot of surface area to grab onto. But as I was mentioning one day in a fit of rage, working on a Chrysler, forgot to buy speed sensors. I'm like, son of a mother, whap! Hit it with a hammer, bing, popped right out, worked like a charm. Used the trick ever since. So what we need to do now, folks, we need to get the lock collar off here. We need to get the bearing off here. That way we can get the seal off and ultimately get our plate off here and fix all of this. Really wish I could get one of those. But we're gonna work with what we have. Lots of different ways to do this. I do it with a torch. Just give it a little whisper. You just gotta relieve the tension from it, or pressure. You choose. Then we'll give it a little punch. Whoa, fella. Just like so. Didn't even nick the axle. So in case you're wondering, you gotta control yourself, man. Then we'll let that baby come on down. Just like the Price is Right. Come on down. There's that. Now, step 2. Step 2, we got to get it all smoked up in here. The seals, boy, they stink. Put on our dark glasses. Hey man, where am I? There you are. We're gonna nick the cage off. Oh, it stinks. Ooh, that's toxic. I don't know what it is, but it ain't good. Oh, it's got my balls. Woo. And then we gotta cut the race off, just like you do the lock ring. I think she's thin enough. I could be wrong. Fire! I think this stuff's gonna kill me, man. Yeehaw! Oh, almost got me. So there's that. There's our axle. Clean and green, no scars. No fuss, no muss. No muss, no fuss. Got it. Girl, you stink. Man. I'm gonna clean off the bird turd where the welder got on there. I'm gonna clean this up a little better, and we're gonna put a couple of nice tacks on each one now that we got it off where we can actually do something with it. So I'll spend a few minutes doing that. And then I oftentimes throw these in the sandblaster and we'll sandblast off the junk there. And then I'll clean the axle off in a parts washer. Make sure the area here where the seal rides isn't all groovy. You're one groovy shaft, baby. She looks good. And then we can press on the new bearing and collar. Now when I do these, I do buy the seals OEM. I always get the OEM seals. Aftermarkets, I don't know. They can be a little sketch. Bearing though, we'll get aftermarket. We got your classic Napa SKF. Comes with a lock collar. They're about 1/4 the cost of an OEM. This OEM bearing is like 140 bucks. Some ridiculous figure. I think Napa ones are like 40 or so. Probably all my math statistics are way off, but I'm gonna get cleaning, and we'll be right back. Got everything ready. Here is the bracket. Now I took, like I said, I sandblasted it and then I just spritzed it with a little bit of Krylon. I took the cutoff wheel and I cut off all of our old little tack welds we put on there, and then ground these heads down a little bit, and then just put a booger of weld on each one to hold those studs. So that should be good for us. So this is going to go on the axle shaft first. I've gone ahead and cleaned up our axle shaft, the sealing surface and stuff. So slide that little guy on. Then we've got our OEM seal here. Like I said, I typically always use the OEM seal. They've pre-greased, okay? Make sure this goes on the right direction. I'm gonna slip that baby on. Woo! There she goes. And then get your plastic. Oh crap! Your BR10 from Napper. Good thing they wrap them in a little piece of plastic. They know I'm gonna drop it. And make sure that this goes on in the correct direction too. Okay? This side goes down, all right? So you want the taper going the right way. You'll figure it out, especially if you do it wrong. Then you won't forget. And then your lock collar, if you're buying an OEM bearing, make sure you buy this separate. So this comes with it. It comes with it when you get a Napa bearing. Although they don't sponsor us. So now, all your stuff's sitting on here, like so. And then you stick it up here in your press. And you get one press block on it. Then you get the other press block on it. And slide it over. Make sure your seal's on. And at this point, you look at this thing and you say to yourself, if I push this on, am I gonna be upset for any reason? And then you bring your press down, push the button. Okay, the press gets there. And then you look at it again and ask yourself, do I have this going the right direction? Is everything good? And give her a couple pumps and you stop one more time. This way, if you get it wrong, you're really upset. And I don't think there's any reason we can't. We have our collar. We've got the seal. We've got the bearing going the right direction. And the lock collar. The excuse me, backing plate does not need to go on with this process like some of them do. Some Toyotas, some other Chryslers. Some other bearing setups, you have to have your backing plate on. Hold your hand like this in case something bad happens. It shouldn't, but. Oh, she hit bottom. After it hits bottom, pull out, because we're done. And then slide that right up and out of there. And there you are. We're all ready to put this little fella back in. What we need to do now is, well, a couple. First of all, make sure you've got this cleaned up the best you can, which I've already done. Took the wire brush, ran around here. There wasn't any real heavy corrosion, so it was right down to bare metal. Run it around the axle tube here on the outside, and also on the inside. There's going to be a little rust ridge here. You want to clean that up. And I guess one thing, so down in the comments you're going to read that when we cut the bearing off the axle shaft, you're going to read a couple things. A, we ruined the axle shaft because it got hot, changed its molecular structure, and the wheel's going to fall off. And B, you're going to read that we don't need to cut it off with a torch, that we could have put a bead of weld around the bearing race, and the bearing race would have fell off. So that's not true. Somebody has seen on the internet where you can weld the inside of a bearing race in a blind hole. The weld shrinks, therefore the race shrinks and it falls out. So in a situation like this, let's say this was a blind hole, you can't get behind it. For example, like in transfer case or front differentials on, well, not front differentials. Transfer case is the only thing I can think of right offhand. Some machinery and stuff where the bearing race sits inside of a hole. You can't get to the back of the bearing race. You just take the welder and you lay a bead all the way around the bearing race. The weld shrinks, the race falls out. So that's super easy. In our situation, on the shaft, if you welded a bead all the way around it, the weld would shrink, therefore making the bearing race tighter on the shaft, making it harder to remove. So that's it. I just wanted to kind of clarify that before you read that. see that, or if you're in the middle of typing that, maybe rethink that before you do. So that's just something I was thinking of. Now we're gonna get our vacuum plate. When we buy these little fellas, they're from Dodge. They come loaded. They've got everything you need and nothing that you don't. All the parts are on them. Before I put them on, I put my cable in because it makes it a whole lot easier to slip that little guy on right now. And then you line her up. Just line her up with the holes like that. Now remember, you need that screw from the wheel speed sensor, and don't put your wheel speed sensor in right now because the way the axle's made, when you go put it in, you'll break it off. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to snap it off. So just get that kind of lined up like that. They fit super, super precise around this hub, so make sure you have it really clean. And you know, you might have to like lightly tap it to get it lined up, but that's it. That makes the job super duper easy. And then I'm gonna go get a little bit of bearing grease. Well, actually, we've got some gear oil right here. We just kind of twirl around in this hole. A very light coating, like so. Then you're gonna grab your axle. Now, when you go to put this little fella in, see these notches here? On the retainer, notches on two sides, but not the other. Make sure those notches, one of the notches lines up here, okay? That makes sense? Because that's where your speed sensor goes. Now let me move these so you can see what's up. So you got your lock, your bearing retainer, your bearing, that's on the right way. Let's hope it is. And then you have your seal. And when you go to put this little fella in, it just you pull it all in at once. So when you're coming in, you gotta say, oh, guide me in. Oh, you feel it hit the splines. And then you kind of line up your, fella, line up your bearing. Get her all lined up just like that, and that's it. Okay, now you gotta push your little studs through here, and then we're gonna get the nuts. And this is the oddball one, and here's the, you know, the lock nuts, but here's the oddball one. And then we're gonna put those on, and then you just go roundy around, snugging them up. What do you want? What? I'm in the middle of a big production over here.
Working on it.
Oh, you got your fish. That's a macer then, huh?
If you see this, if you read this, flip me over. Wait, what else is there? Take your top off. Jeep.
You know all the slogans, don't you, Andy?
I've seen him on the road. Did they ever do the little guy that, I don't know his name, but he used to be on the bug guard with just his fingers and his face sticking over his eyes?
You're not even old enough to remember that, Andy.
I kinda am a little bit.
What's up?
I'm gonna be 40 in a month.
Are you really? Hey, my birthday's in a couple days, old son.
Oh yeah, how old you could be?
44.
The difference is, I just told everybody in a month I'm having a birthday, and nobody's gonna send me a gift. But now that I know 2 days from now is your birthday, you're gonna get like UPS truck come here 10 days.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? What do you want?
Nothing. A good friend.
A good friend, huh?
How's that?
I'm here.
Perfect.
Are you
got
trying
everything
to
I wanted.
insinuate that isn't enough for you? I'm not the guy?
Got everything I've ever wanted, Andy.
Oh, wow.
All right, folks, I'm going to continue to talk to Andy and tighten these nuts up. These nuts, let me show you.
We're not that good friends.
Whoa. So we're going to tighten all these up, snug them up in an even crisscross.
As if you were doing Peterbilt wheels.
As if you're doing Peterbilt wheels, and then that's going to pull in that bearing and seal. You can't really mess it up at this point, folks, because everything is already started. It's just a long, slow process. And then make sure that you come back through and then tighten these to factory specs. We're all done visiting. We've got the new wheel speed sensor. We'll slip that baby right in. Put the bolt in it. Down here, 8 millimeters, what you'll need for that little fella, which we so conveniently have right here. Idiot. Should have got a different one, huh? We'll screw it all the way in by hand, see if we've got enough room then. Probably not. We might have to get a shorty. Fits perfect. Very lightly snug it up. I'll plug this baby in. plugged in, red locks pushed in. I think where everything's happy there. Our cables hooked back up. All 4 of those nuts are all tight. Our axle still spins, so that's a plus. I guess that's it, folks. Pretty easy job. What I would do if I were a DIYer and I was doing one of these, I would pull the axles and see if you could take them to a shop and just have the bearing replaced. If you don't feel comfortable taking the bearing off and the retainer, or if you don't have to press yourself to put it back together, just see if the shop is willing to help you. You know, obviously for a fee, I mean, can't expect them to do it for free, but see if they're capable, first of all, and then see if they're willing, second of all. If they're not capable and they're willing, don't leave your axle there. Little word of advice. I'm not sure how other folks get them off the lock nut and stuff, and I don't know if I've ever, we could probably look in service data to see what that says. I've always just nicked them off with a torch because I found that's the fastest, easiest method. And you don't even have to cut all the way through. For example, like this here is the bearing race. I could have cut that a little more. So I go across it until it gets really thin. And then that usually relieves it enough where you can just drive it off. And that same thing, like here's the one off the other side. So that's usually how thin I go. Get it so it just goes through, and then they come off nice and easy. Same thing with the lock collar. When my dad used to do them, he'd blow straight across them. I never really liked that method. I can see better when I'm going this way because you just start shaving it down, and as soon as it breaks through, you can see the axle and the heat transfers in there. As long as you're not, screwing around when you're back here. If you're staying here too long and you've got it too hot for too long, the heat's going to transfer to the axle and you're going to nick the axle. So it's just like cutting a nut off a bolt and not cutting the threads. You only got one chance while it's hot. So here up, go across it. If you got to come back across a couple times, forget about it. You're going to cut it. You're going to make a mess out of it. So use your noodle there and do some practicing, maybe on some junk, but you'll get the hang of it. And again, if you're not comfortable with it, just take it to a shop and have it done, but only if they're capable. Don't assume. Some machine shops will do it, like our Bath Napa here. Not a sponsor, they have a machine shop, and you can take like knuckles in there and have them press bearings in and out and stuff like that. They're not capable of everything, but they are capable of some things. Alright, looks like he's got everything freed up there. And the bolts for the caliper here. I'm gonna slip this all back together. Customer did his own rear brakes, so I'm gonna put the bolt in there. Put the bolt in here. Might not even have to adjust the parking brake. The adjuster hole is in the back in case we have to. Now this car is standard shift, manual transmission. We'll grab our air ratchet. Take her down to 24 foot-pounds-ish. There's that. We're pretty well done, folks. I'm gonna throw the wheels on and we're gonna cycle the parking brake a couple times, and we probably ought to check the level of the gear oil in the rear end. Wheels are on, mostly tight. I'm gonna pound a 3/8 drive, little stubby extension. Oh, I thought we had a ratchet out here. I guess we'll use the old air ratchet. Make a funny face, it helps it come out easier. Dang, why'd you do that? Got your classic 80 dub 90. That's all these Dana 44s call for. Smells delish. Not really. There, now it'll come out a little quicker. Oh, there it is. She's full. She's full. Let's just spin the wheels around. There we go. Wasn't down very much. Just wanted to make sure it's full. Looks like it could stand to have a rear differential service. There's that. I knew we didn't lose much when we pulled the axles out, but never hurts to check. It's a 2012, according to the VIN number. When I looked up to see what fluid it took, but it was a 2012. Clean that off so nobody knows we've been there. I'm gonna set it down, we're gonna torque the wheels. We're gonna yank the parking brake on, see if we need to make any adjustments, and then we'll go for a rip. Oops, gotta push the third pedal. Like when we got all the starters dying or battery, we'll drop her into third gear. And of course the data locks up, as Chryslers often do. Try it again, we'll drop her down in fourth gear here. Yeah, so pretty typical on, because we're gonna have some traction control kicking on. For the data to lock up, when you're trying to read live data on Chryslers when any wheel speed, oftentimes the data locks up. Don't ask me why. When we set it down, we'll go for a drive and see if it does. It's usually like when traction control and stuff is kicking on. Let's turn the traction off. Let's see if it works. Yeah, there we go. So I turned traction control off. When ABS activates on Chrysler, the live data quits reading, okay? So that's not uncommon to see, so if you see that, anybody who's observant here will see the difference between side to side. This one's going 18 miles an hour, this is going 12. That's because we have the wheels up in the air. I'm gonna step on the brakes a little bit. You'll see one side stops before the other, but it's just because it's running through the differential. When we let it down, trust me, it'll be the same, but I just wanted to make sure that both of those speed sensors worked, and it appears that they do. And then, like I say, our parking brake comes up just a couple clicks before it gets stiff, so that's good. I have washed my panties. Oh crap, I can't hold it. Well, we can try to hold the camera. Oh, this thing's got 6 gears. Wow. Okay, ready? E-brake check. Oh, it works. Let's roll these wheels up. Oh yeah. It's a Jeep thing. Let's see if we gotta do this one right-handed. Cruising now. I don't know why we're going on a test drive. I guess just to make sure there's no noise back there. Brakes feel good. Oh, parking brake feels good. This guy should be happy. That's it, folks. Putting the rear axle bearings, seals, backing plates in your 2012 Jeep Wrangler with a big 3.6. Not too terrible of a job. If you don't have a press at home, it's kind of a terrible job. But like I say, take your axle assembly. Prior to taking your axle assembly out, find a shop, find a machine shop, find somebody that can do it for you who is confident in their abilities to not ruin your axle. Because things can go wrong doing that, whether you elect to use the drill and crack method or the cut off wheel or whatever it is that people do to get, bearing races off from shafts. So just make sure that whoever does it for you is confident in their abilities. And that's about it. If you have a torch or however you do it, get after it yourself, go for it. It's not too terrible. And that's all I got to tell you. Tell me what you want to tell me in that comment section. Questions, comments, CNC, the Facebook, you guys know where to find us. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.